So, in just a couple of weeks, I'll be moving in with a family in Costa Rica to learn Spanish. I'm 46 years old and my Spanish isn't the best. And honestly, I am a little bit nervous, or maybe a lot nervous, because I know I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to forget words. I'll probably embarrass myself more than once. But I have realized something. I'd rather feel uncomfortable for a few months or for a few weeks rather than spend the next 10 years wondering, what if? My name's Dr. Nicole LaShawn, and I'm a nurse practitioner with over 25 years clinical experience working in family practice and other settings. If you watched my last video, you know that I talked about something called retired-ish life. Not retiring from work or retiring from work traditionally, but it's more about retiring from waiting. It's more about refusing to postpone the things that make life meaningful. Instead of waiting until retirement to start living, I'm intentionally bringing those pieces of my dream retirement into my life today. And today marks the beginning of my very first ever retired-ish experiment. I'm learning Spanish. Yes. Why? Because I've always wanted to. Why? Why not? For years, I have admired people who could travel confidently, connect with local people, and have real conversations in another language. And I realized something. I didn't just want to visit a country or retire to another country, but that I really want to experience it. I really want to connect with the people, understand the conversations that are happening around me. I wanted to ask people about their lives, about their families, about their culture, and understand them. I wanted to be able to express myself in ways that are deep and meaningful. But for years, I kept telling myself the same stories. I'm too busy. I'll do it after I retire. I probably won't stick with it. I'm too old to become fluent. It's something for younger people. Maybe you've caught yourself saying something similar. Maybe it isn't Spanish. Maybe it's painting or learning to dance or taking a photography class. Or maybe for you, it's starting strength training or traveling solo, learning to play an instrument, whatever it is. So many of us spend years believing that we need perfect timing before we begin. But after 25 years as a nurse practitioner, I've learned something that really completely changed the way that I think about time. I've cared for people who have had beautiful plans for later. Some were able to live those dreams, and to be honest, some weren't. And this isn't meant to scare anyone. It's simply a reminder that our health, our energy, our confidence, and even our time are precious gifts, and none of them are guaranteed. Eventually, I had to ask myself a simple question. If not now, then when? And honestly, I realized that I didn't want another decade to go by saying someday. One of the things I've learned is that we often tell ourselves that we're too old to learn something new. But think about that for a second. We would never look at a child who's learning to read or learning to ride a bike and say, you're too old. Somewhere along the way, we start believing that beginners are supposed to only be children, not adults. But what if being a beginner again is exactly what keeps us growing? As a nurse practitioner, that idea actually excites me for another reason. Learning Spanish for me isn't just about preparing me for travel, it's also exercising my brain. Research does continue to show that learning new skills, especially a new language, helps strengthen our memory, our attention, our problem solving, and really does help create new neuronal connections. Our brains remain capable of learning at all ages and stages throughout our lives. And we thrive on the challenge. And our brains thrive on the novelty of the challenge of learning something new. So to me, it's one more reason to keep stretching myself instead of settling into that what's familiar. Now, could I stay home and learn Spanish with an app? Of course, absolutely. In fact, I use language apps. I have a tutor. I've been to classes, but I wanted something more, and I wanted something different, and I wanted to say yes to something that maybe in the past I would not have had the confidence to try. And so that's why I'm heading off to Costa Rica to live with the host family. I want to hear I want to hear Spanish over breakfast, at the grocery store, walking through the town, and at the dinner table. I want to have heartfelt, deep conversations. Because sometimes the fastest way to grow is to place yourself in an environment where growth becomes unavoidable, right? I can't change the English in this environment because I'm going to have to use the Spanish that I have. So will it be uncomfortable? Absolutely, it's going to be uncomfortable. Will I accidentally say something embarrassing? That's probably a guarantee, and likely more than once. But I've decided that rather than avoid this, I'd rather be a beginner than spend another 10 years wondering what might have happened. And the truth is, this really isn't about Spanish for me, to be honest. It's really about becoming the kind of person who's willing to keep growing as I age. It's about reminding myself that I can still learn something completely new. It's about choosing curiosity over comfort. It's about saying yes to experiences instead of waiting for the perfect time or when I feel ready, because I have accepted that that time may never come. But refusing to postpone the things that make us feel alive can be a big mistake. So what is retired-ish life? What is it really about? It's not really about retiring early. Certainly you can if you have that option. It's not necessarily about quitting work, but it's refusing to postpone the things that make us feel alive. I've decided this channel is not just going to be about talking about healthy aging, but it's going to be about living it. That's why I'm creating something I'm calling retired-ish experiments. Every few months or so, I'll challenge myself to step outside of my comfort zone, learning Spanish, living in another country, trying a new adventure, improving my health in different ways, building more freedom into my life. And because I don't just want to encourage you to keep growing, I want us to grow together. Maybe your retired-ish life experiment isn't learning a new language. Maybe it's just signing up for your first strength training class, or maybe it's that you finally booked a trip to somewhere that you've dreamed about. Maybe it is improving your health, your nutrition. Maybe it's starting that side business, or maybe it's simply saying yes to something that you've always been afraid to try. Whatever it is, I hope that you'll stop waiting for permission, because your future isn't built by one giant leap. It's built by hundreds and hundreds of small decisions to begin. So before I go, I'd love to hear from you. If you could learn one new skill or travel somewhere you've always dreamed, what would it be? Or if you finally had the opportunity to say yes to something that you've been putting off, what would it be? Leave me a comment below, because I genuinely love to read what you guys say. And who knows, you might inspire someone else who's reading the comments. And finally, for this week's challenge, for the retired-ish challenge, do one thing this week that your future self will thank you for. It doesn't have to be something huge. It really can be just one small step toward the life that you've been imagining. And as for me, I'll be documenting the entire journey. The wins, the awkward conversations, what I'm learning about Costa Rica, my progress in Spanish, and what this experience teaches me about building a retired-ish lifestyle. So I hope that you'll come along with me, because the goal isn't really to become fluent in Spanish. The goal is to become someone who never stops learning. So until next time, keep building your health, your freedom, and your next adventure, and I'll see you soon. Bye.